All right, hello. Welcome to the second episode of the Hold My Helmet Football Podcast, and I'm your host, Will Reichling. Now, before I begin, I would just like to give a big thanks to everyone who showed love and support to my very first podcast episode. Still have a long way to go, but nonetheless, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And not anywhere we want to be yet, but it still was very fun, that first episode, and I would love to keep doing this, and we'll see where it takes me. So let's begin. So what I would like to do this week is basically what I did was I took every single game from the 2023 NFL regular season schedule, and I predicted who I think is going to win and lose every single game. Now, I'm not going to go too much into detail with that, but what I'm going to do for this episode is I will tell you who I think is what the final standings are going to be at the end of the season, and who made the playoffs, who barely missed, who was awful. And then after that, I'll explain who I think are the best divisions and the worst divisions based on the win percentage, and we'll really dive into why certain teams missed the playoffs and why certain teams made the playoffs, and why certain teams were just god-awful. So, all right, let's begin. So I'd like to start with the AFC East. Now, I'm an East Coast person. I live in Long Island, New York. This division's tough. So I know last episode I said how I felt about Josh Allen, what is he without Brian Daboll? And let's be honest, he's still great. The only issue is, though, they need to develop a consistent running game. Now, I know everyone's about to freak out and be like, oh, wait, Will, they were fifth in rush yards per game last year. What do you mean? What I mean is they need to develop a consistent running game without Josh Allen. He accounted for 34% of the team's rushing yards and 29% of the team's rushing attempts. That's not sustainable long-term for a quarterback in this league. He was third in the NFL for quarterbacks in rushing attempts as well. Even he said himself that this is not sustainable and he needs to sit in the pocket more and throw the ball, which he's also great at too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it adds another dimension to his game to run. And you need to pick your spots nowadays in this league because you need to learn how to slide. You got to be careful because, maybe your first year, 2 or 3, you won't get injured, but then once you hit year 4, 5, 6, the wear and tear really starts to affect your body. And before you know it, like Big Ben was hit a lot, and then towards the end of his career, he didn't really age well. Hall of Famer, no doubt. I'm just saying, he did not age well. So Josh Allen needs to be careful. I think he'll be smarter this year. I think he'll take less hits. I think he'll be smart running the ball, and I think he'll also cut down his turnovers, which will be huge for them. So Bills win the division again. Bills 13-4, win the AFC East. Josh Allen probably cuts his turnovers in about half. Maybe instead of 14, maybe 8, 9 interceptions this season. Better year for Josh Allen. Year 2 under Ken Dorsey. All right, this is where it gets interesting. Second place, I have the Miami Dolphins at 12-5. Let's all take a deep breath. They got a lot of talent at wide receiver. I mean, just having Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I don't really care who else they have after that. And they added Jalen Ramsey to go with Xavier Howard on defense, so they got the receivers, they got the corners to cover the other team's receivers. Like I said it last week, I have Tua in my top 10. I think Tua wins games when he's healthy. He had over 100 passer rating last season. Actually, to be exact, I think it was 105.5. And when he has talent, he puts up numbers. I mean, he was, for half the season, in the race for MVP candidate. Dolphins can go head-to-head with anyone in the league, and I'm actually very high on the Dolphins this year, and I hate saying that because I'm a New York Jets fan. I live in New York, but I think Miami Dolphins will be very, very good this year, and they're going to be dangerous. So if Tua stays healthy the whole season, watch out for the Miami Dolphins. Okay, so now third I have the Jets, but I have the Jets going 11-6. So I have 3 teams in the AFC East winning over 10 games. Now, that's crazy. It's insane, but it's possible. You can't tell me it's not possible. It's definitely possible. I'd like to add before I go any more into this that I would focus more on where the teams finish in the standings other than the records. Like, I think the records matter. It's going to give you a roundabout of where they're about to finish, but, I could be a game, 2 games off. But I think this is like kind of going to be how the standings finish out when it's all said and done. I hate that I have to put them third, but I don't know what they're going to be this season with Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback. I think they're going to be really good, but I've seen teams have to adjust their first season under a new quarterback. I mean, not everyone comes in as Tom Brady and Matt Stafford winning the Super Bowl their first season on a new team. Most of the times it goes, more like a Peyton Manning, where it took him a few years to finally get to the Super Bowl on a new team. That's usually how it goes. But It takes some time to adjust to new receivers. You don't learn that overnight. And that's why Green Bay struggled last year, because he didn't go to OTAs and he didn't practice with his young receivers. Now, it seems like he's doing that with the Jets. Apparently he might take some time off. That's fine. He's already been there for a little while. I don't have a problem with that as long as he gets back and it doesn't take the rest of the offseason. They're going to be dangerous too. They're going to be viable. You have too much talent on defense. I think it's the top 5 defense. They have a great defensive line. They have great corners. C.J. Mosley's still really good. So, and then you got young star players on offense: Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. So they gotta win at least 10 games. Like I said, they have to win at least 10 games. I think they win 11. That AFC East is tough. I think they all beat each other up a lot. But the Jets, I think they'll be a legitimate force with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Number 4, the Patriots. But I have the Patriots going 7-10. Look, they'll win 6, 7, 8 games just based on Belichick and defense alone. He's still a very talented head coach. What his problem is he's too stubborn and he doesn't adjust to offense. Last year he had a defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia and a special teams coordinator in Joe Judge calling plays for Mac Jones. Now, I think Mac Jones will be better this year with Bill O'Brien as the new offensive coordinator. Bill O'Brien is smart. I know everyone hated him on the Texans, but he was a bad GM. He actually was not a bad head coach. He won a lot of divisions, and he was just a terrible GM. Traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. No one ever still can't understand it to this day, but Bill O'Brien could coach, and he knows offense. So I think Mac Jones will definitely be better this year. I think Ramondre Stevenson has become one of the better running backs in the league. He averaged 5 yards per carry last year. That, if you don't watch football, that's really good. But still, the AFC is too tough for them to make the playoffs, and off just coaching and defense. So the Patriots, it's going to be rough this year, but they're always going to be somewhat competitive with Bill Belichick there. So, but they're the worst team in the division, and it's not even close. So that's the AFC East. Bills first, win the division. Dolphins second, Jets third, and Patriots fourth. So now I will get into the AFC North. Now for first place, winning the division, I have the Cincinnati Bengals going 14-3. This could be the year that Joe Burrow finally wins MVP. And last season, they struggled a little bit in the beginning, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think they're going to hit the ground running. They're going to cruise. I'm not going to go too much into this. The defense is also underrated. They were 5th least points per game allowed last year at 19.6. I mean, they're going to get off to a hot start, I feel like, and they're just going to cruise for the entire season. This might be their year. I might pick them to win the Super Bowl. Either them, the Chiefs, or the Eagles. That's my 3 right now. No, the Jets are not in it, obviously, yet. No, I'm kidding. They're not in it. But that's who I think is going to win the AFC North. Ravens might be competitive against them. It's a great division. Let's be honest. They're all 4 of those teams are viable to make the playoffs in the AFC North. But I think the Bengals are the best team. No one really, like I said, no one really talks about their defense, and their offense is great. I said, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle might be the best wide receiver combo in the league. I don't know if I mentioned that before with Miami, but I was going to. I actually think it's probably Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And I think a lot of people agree with that. But I think that's 1 and 2, or 2. Either way, you could switch them, and we could agree that's the top 2 receiver duos in the league. So they're going to cruise. They're going to win the division. And that's it's going to be a boring regular season for the Bengals. But no, fun. If they're going to win, they're going to win by a lot of points. But, not too much drama for the Bengals. All right, second place, I have the Ravens going 10-7. I just don't know how that will look, too. That's another team, just like the Jets. The Ravens, I just don't know how it's going to look. With Odell Beckham, who's had 2 ACLs coming off that. I think I know Lamar will be great, but I just don't know how long it'll take him to mess with his receivers. They also did get Zay Flowers in the draft, so they've this is easily the best receiving core that Lamar Jackson's ever had. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out in Baltimore. They got a great coach. Here's the thing, they got a great coach. They got a great quarterback. They got him some weapons now. Their defense can be legitimate. So, I could be wrong about them. They could end up winning the AFC North, winning 11, 12, 13 games. But I got to see how it plays out. Maybe I'll make some kind of changes right before the season once we get more into the summer. But the Ravens are definitely going to be viable as well. But like I said, the AFC stacked, and schedules also matter. And having to play your own division twice. Meanwhile, you have a tough division. It's going to be tough. They're all going to be like the AFC East and the AFC North, and probably the AFC West. They're all going to beat each other up. I mean, like they're all great divisions. You have 3 great divisions in the AFC, in my opinion. So the Ravens finished at 10-7, second place. I think that's saying something. Winning 10 games isn't easy, especially in the AFC. So Lamar will be great. Hopefully the injury bug doesn't bite him anymore, and he's got the contract. He's prepared, and he's going to be great. We all know that. So where they finish is the only question. How long it takes for him to gel with Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers. That's going to be the key. Third place I have, I didn't really do the tiebreaker on this one because neither of them make the playoffs. Spoiler. So I have the Steelers and the Browns both finishing at 8-9, third and fourth place. The Steelers, they're going to play competitive and be in every game, but I just feel like there's a lot more talented teams in the AFC. I think they have something in Kenny Pickett. He's a perfect example of why stats don't always tell the full story, because his numbers were last year were god awful. 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a 76.7 passer rating. But actually watching him, I liked a lot of what I saw. I think he was confident in the pocket. He would step up and make a throw and wouldn't be afraid to take a hit. He wouldn't be afraid to throw a ball to tight coverage and maybe throw an interception. I mean, sometimes that could be bad judgment, but in a rookie quarterback, you like to see someone that'll be a little bit of a gunslinger and won't be scared to throw the ball into tight coverage. Also, he can move out of the pocket and make throws on the run. I think he proved that last season. So you gotta like what you see out of Kenny Pickett. He showed a lot of development in that first season. I think the Steelers have their guy, but I think there's just a lot more better guys in the AFC. Like I said, I think they'll be competitive, but I think Mike Tomlin finally has his first losing season of his career. Barely, 8-9, so barely. And also the Browns finishing 8-9. I think Deshaun Watson will definitely be better this season. It's also another team that will be very interesting to see how it will look. I think Amari Cooper is a very good number 1 receiver, and I do like Donovan Peoples-Jones a lot. And obviously David Njoku is a very good tight end. But other than that, they don't have much depth at wide receiver. But I do think they have talent on both sides of the ball. I just don't think they have enough juice to beat out Cincinnati or Baltimore for the division. So, I have the Steelers and the Browns both finishing 8-9. I think this is another division that's going to beat each other up, especially the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns. They're all going to be beating each other up. It's very well possible those 3 teams split all their games against each other. So the Browns, I think they'll be better. I think Deshaun Watson will be better, having a full offseason and a full regular season to, get in the groove. I think he'll look a little bit more like himself, but it might not be enough. So that's how I have the AFC North shaken up. I have the Bengals 14-3 winning the division. I have the Ravens 10-7. I have the Steelers and Browns at 8-9. So now let's get into the worst division in the conference, the AFC South. I think we can all agree I have the Jaguars winning the division at 11-6. So they will take another step this year, and they will win 2 more games than they did last year. Trevor Lawrence will take another step forward. I mean, he showed signs of really becoming a star quarterback at the end of last season and in that playoff game coming back from 27 points. Now they also get Calvin Ridley. We all forgot about Calvin Ridley because of the suspension for gambling. He was legitimate in Atlanta. I mean, the second they got him, I was like, Jacksonville is going to have a good offense the second he comes back. And Christian Kirk very well earned every penny of his big contract last season. He was great. And now he gets to slide into the number 2 receiver role easily. Calvin Ridley will be your number 1. Christian Kirk will be your number 2. That is an ideal scenario for Jacksonville. And then you brought back Evan Ingram on the franchise tag. So now you have a formidable offense. Travis Etienne showed he might become a star. And overall, I think they take another step forward this year. I mean, who's going to compete with Jacksonville? They might even win a playoff game this year. So, Jacksonville, 11-6, lost star talent on offense. Now, they don't have a very good secondary, so that's not good, especially that the play teams in the playoffs like the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, that all have very high-powered offenses. That could be a problem for them, but I think it's very possible they could win a playoff game this year. We have to see how it shakes out. So we will wait to see how that shakes out, but the Jacksonville Jaguars win the division at 11-6. Now, second place, this gets a little shaky. You guys might not agree with this, but I have the Tennessee Titans finishing at 9-8, Why? Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel. Well, let me let me read to you Mike Vrabel's record since he became the Tennessee Titans head coach. First season 9-7, second season 9-7, third season 11-5, fourth season 12-5, and then 7-10 with a quarterback who they got off the street at the end of the season. Mike Vrabel is a legitimate head coach. Derrick Henry is going to be back from injury. Ryan Tannehill is going to be back from injury. Now, he might be a little washed, but if he's not, if he's anything like he was, they're going to be legitimate. Now, legitimate in the AFC is not enough, obviously. 9-8 is probably not going to be enough to make the playoffs, but 9 wins is not crazy for the Titans when you factor all these things in. So 9-8 for the Titans, second place. Now, this gets a little interesting. I have the Houston Texans finishing third, but I have them finishing 3-14. I honestly thought they were going to improve a lot this season, but then looking at their schedule, it's hard to pick out wins for them. I think C.J. Stroud will show promise. I think that D'Amico Ryans will prove why he was the right hire at head coach, and I think the defense will be a little feisty. I like Dameon Pierce. I think he'll be even better this season. They added Dalton Schultz and Robert Woods. But let's be honest, Dalton Schultz, when Dak Prescott didn't play, he was average, 400 yards in 15 games. So I don't know what he's going to look like with a rookie quarterback. And Robert Woods looks like he might be washed, to be honest. Injuries have mounted up. I used to like Robert Woods a lot on the Rams. But, last year in the Titans, he looked like a shell of himself. So they're drafting and acquiring, and they have all the right things that you want to have when you're building a team, though. They drafted the quarterback. They have the left tackle in Laramie Tunsil. They drafted the pass rusher in Will Anderson. They got a smart young coach, even though it's on the defensive side of the ball. Usually you go offense nowadays, but they have a smart young coach who's feisty. He's going to make that defense feisty. But, when Robert Woods is your best receiver, you're not even going to win or come in second in your own division. So they're gonna be bad. This is what I would call they're a year away from being a year away. I don't think they're going to be good. They're going to be competitive, just like last year. They're going to be in a lot of games, but they just don't have the juice. So, they have some potential juice with Dameon Pierce and players, like young players like Will Anderson, but will it be enough juice to win? You go look at their schedule. Not an easy schedule. A lot of team schedules in the AFC are not easy schedules. So 3-14, Houston Texans finishing third in the division. Now the Colts are a little bit of a wild card. I have them going 2-15, finishing in last place. This one might get a little ugly. Anthony Richardson might need a lot of time to develop. He might not even be ready this season. I think he'll be okay this season if he plays. He might not even play though. Gardner Minshew might play. So their offense, we all know their offense was bad last season, but shockingly, their defense was 28th in points per game allowed, and they were dead last in opponent red zone percentage, touchdown percentage. Even though Jonathan Taylor will be fully healthy this season, hopefully, I don't think that'll be enough. Michael Pittman is your number one wide receiver. He is a good wide receiver, probably not a number one. He kind of disappears in some games. But other than that, Alec Pierce, they did draft Josh Downs in the third round, so hopefully he turns out to be something. But, not that much talent on the offense other than your star running back. And you have Quentin Nelson on the line. He's great, the guard. Hopefully you see something from Anthony Richardson. That's what you're hoping this year. This year is just seeing what you're going to develop in your young quarterback, even if he even gets a chance to play, because we don't know how far off he is from being ready. We don't know if it's going to be, week 1 he starts and it looks smooth, or, he doesn't play till week 10 and he looks like Malik Willis. I don't think he'll be that bad. He was a freak at the combine, but this is not just combine talking. This is just freak. This guy's going to make special plays in the league. He's just too athletically gifted. I think they have a long way to go before being good again, in my opinion. Now, you get Shaq Leonard back on the defensive side. You lost him to injury from basically all of last season. But I just don't think this team's very good, and I don't think they'll be very good. This is definitely the worst division in football, and they're going to be the worst team in the worst division in football. And it's crazy because, you saw a lot of good teams so far in the AFC, and then in this division you have 2 teams with 5 total wins. I don't even think I've listed a team with 5 wins or less since I've started this list, talking about this list to you guys. So, these are probably going to be the two worst teams in the conference. I mean, we'll get to the AFC West, but with those two records, how can you get much worse than that? So I could be wrong about one or both of those teams, or I could be right in the money. They're both really wild cards. I think that'll be the order, though. Like I said, don't focus as much on the records as much as where they finish in the standings. Jaguars, Titans, Texans, Colts, that's how I think it's going to finish. I think the records are going to be close to what it is, but, it's hard to pick every game. I think we all know that, especially we don't know who's even going to shine this season. There could be a rookie out of nowhere in the 7th round that becomes the best player in the league. We don't know what's going to happen. So we could talk all we want about who they drafted, all the free agents they signed. We don't really know what they're going to be. The the Texans can make the playoffs, and the Jets could be a disaster. So it all could happen. Everything always comes back to the Jets. Just remember that. Always going to reference the Jets in some way. Now for the AFC West. This is another really hard division. Really hard. First place, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, finishing at 15-2. As long as Mahomes is there, they're going to cruise through the AFC. They've been battle-tested too many times. Maybe Kadarius Toney steps up and becomes that number one receiver for them. Chris Jones was dominant last year. He's still going to be really good. Pacheco was a great find in the 7th round. He added some juice at running back. They draft well. They're smart with the cap. So, the Chiefs are going to cruise again, 15-2, win the division. Not going to go too much into it. They're great. I mean, could they use another receiver? Yeah. But do they really? Because they won the Super Bowl last year with Juju Smith-Schuster as their best receiver. Let's see if the Patriots can do that. So, the Chiefs winning the division, obviously. Now, second place, the Los Angeles Chargers. I have them going 11-6. I think they finally take a step this year and solidify themselves in the playoffs. They're also another interesting team. Like I said, I think they're finally going to put things together. Adding Kellen Moore, I think, was the missing piece offensively. Justin Herbert showed he can carry a game with no receivers. Joshua Palmer and DeAndre Carter were his 1 and 2 receiver at one point last year when Mike Williams and Keenan Allen went down. Although now they did draft Quentin Johnston in the first round, so they're going to be great at receiver if everyone can stay healthy this season. I also like Gerald Everett, their tight end. Now, the only thing is their defense. I mean, they have good names on the defense, though. I mean, there's talent on the defense. But, I think this comes back to the head coach. I don't know. Brandon Staley is a good head coach. They allowed the most yards per carry in the NFL, 5.46. I mean, you're a defensive coach. You think you'd be good at the defensive side of the ball? I mean, I feel like they've underperformed the defense since he's gotten there. So I would watch out. If the Los Angeles Chargers do not win a playoff game this season, do not be surprised if they move off Brandon Staley for Kellen Moore. Now, that might sound crazy now, but a year from now, that might not sound so crazy. So let's remember that it's time to make a playoff run. The defense has to step up this season, although I will add they were a lot better at the second half of last season. But they led up the 27-point lead to the Jaguars, and they should have held that. So definitely need to improve. They did start to improve a little bit. I think Brandon Staley's smart, but that doesn't mean he's a good head coach. So I think there's a lot left to be desired when it comes to him, so we're going to have to find out. So the Chargers are going to be interesting. I think they will. I think they might win a playoff game this season. I think Kellen Moore will be that piece that Justin Herbert needed. They needed someone, a creative. When you watch the Chargers, you kind of thought to yourself like they ran kind of an archaic offense. You don't see any. I'm not talking about trickery or foolery, but you don't see anything creative. It's just kind of drop back throw, the 3-5 step drop throw. You never really see Justin Herbert design plays of him rolling out of the pocket. He will do it on his own. I mean, he's great, but you didn't see a lot of creativity. So that's why you bring in Kellen Moore, and I think Dallas lost a great offensive coordinator. But, that's their problem. So I think they'll be better, and I think they'll be legitimate from start to finish. I don't think they'll struggle at any point, really, as far as, last year with the injuries. So I think they'll definitely be viable, but a lot of teams will be viable in this conference, like I keep saying. So, it's all a mystery, but they're they will most likely make the playoffs, the Chargers. They're really good, especially with Justin Herbert. All right, and now this is kind of the wild card I have for the AFC. I have the Broncos finishing third, but I have them finishing at 10-7. Look, do not go crazy. They have a great defense. Patrick Surtain's the top 3 corner in the league. If the Broncos scored just exactly 18 points each game last season, they would have won at least 10 games. That's not speculation. That is a fact. So, with Sean Payton as the head coach, great offensive mind, what tells me they're not going to average at least 18 points a game? I mean, I have a hard time believing Russell Wilson is completely washed. The 4 years before he got to Denver, in Seattle, he had over 100 passer rating every single season in those 4 seasons. How does he go from that to being one of the worst quarterbacks in the league? Parts of that had to have been coaching. Now, it looks like he's a little hesitant of running out of the pocket, but when he did run out of the pocket, he still looked like he had some elusiveness, so it doesn't look like he's completely washed. He did look like he lost a little bit of a step, but if Sean Payton can unlock at least 80% of what Russell Wilson used to be, they'll win a couple. They'll be competitive in this conference. I mean, they have the pieces. Now it's time just to put them together, and they got the coach to do that. So they definitely have the talent and the ability to bounce back this season. I think they will. Now, in last place, I have the Oakland Raiders finishing 5-12. Now, I'm kind of not sure of their intentions. You know, the whole thing with Garoppolo's foot injury, apparently they knew about it. There's some speculation that they didn't know about it. Now he's missing OTAs. You know, I'm not really worried about his injury and if he's going to play this season. I feel like he'll play this season and he'll be fine from this injury. My problem is, will he get hurt again? Even if he comes back from this injury and it's nothing and he'll be fine, he's gonna get hurt again. It's what happens. History has proven this with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, when he plays the entire season, you know, he's good. He's effective. They would be competitive. I mean, doesn't mean they'll make the play. They probably won't make the playoffs no matter what. But they'll definitely be competitive if Jimmy Garoppolo plays. The thing is, if he gets hurt, their backup quarterback's Brian Hoyer. If they start off rough this season, they should just punt the season and get into the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And I hate talking about teams tanking, but I have no idea what direction this franchise is going in. So I don't really know what their intentions are. I don't even know Josh McDaniels has that kind of leeway to tank for Caleb Williams. So I think there's a lot of questions going into this season, and that means I think it's most likely going to be a rough season for the Raiders. So I have the AFC West, the Chiefs winning 15-2, the Chargers at 11-6, the Denver Broncos at 10-7, and the Las Vegas Raiders at 5-12. And that means I have 3 teams in the AFC West also winning 10 games. So I have 3 teams in the AFC East winning at least 10 games, and I have 3 teams in the AFC West winning 10 games. Now I'm going to get into who makes the playoffs. The Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, and Jaguars all making the playoffs, I think makes sense to all of us. I don't think that's really that debatable whether the Bills or the Bengals win the division or not. I think they'll both be in the playoffs. The Chiefs, I think, will win the division. The Jaguars, I think, will win the division. So the Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, and Jaguars are the 4 AFC division winners. Chiefs, the 1 seed, Bengals, 2 seed, Bills, 3 seed, Jaguars, 4 seed. I have the Miami Dolphins at 12-5 as the 5 seed. The Los Angeles Chargers at 11-6 at the 6 seed, and the New York Jets at 11-6 at the 7 seed. I have the Chargers beating the Jets, so the Chargers have the Jets on the tiebreaker. The Ravens and the Broncos just missed the playoffs at 10-7. So the Ravens and the Broncos just missed the playoffs at 10-7. I have 9 out of 16 AFC teams winning over 10 games. I have 3 teams in the AFC East making the playoffs. Now, I tried to find the stat on what was the most teams to win at least 10 games in the AFC, and I couldn't find it. But 9 out of 16 sounds like a lot to me. That sounds like a lot of really good teams to the AFC. That it's going to be very tough. You have 2 10-win teams in the AFC missing the playoffs. The Ravens and the Broncos. Now, the Ravens, it's going to be very disappointing, especially since they paid Lamar the big contract. They signed Odell Beckham to a pretty big contract for his age and injuries. And for the Broncos, I mean, Sean Payton turning that team around to 10 wins is a great feat. I think Russell Wilson will be better, but obviously it won't be enough to make the playoffs. I think Miami has too much speed and talent on both sides of the ball to not make the playoffs. The Chargers are going to be dangerous this year, in my opinion, and take another big step. Like I said, I got the Chargers on the tiebreaker over the Jets because I have them beating the Jets head-to-head. But, you know, I have the Jets barely squeaking in. I could put the Jets higher, but I don't know how they'll look, and their schedule is also very tough. Still, their defense is top 5, and like I said, they got a lot of great young talent on offense. So I think that will factor in. I also think the Jets are also talented enough to make the playoffs. But here's the thing, you got 4 or 5 teams fighting for 3 spots. The Chargers, the Jets, the Ravens, the Dolphins, and the Broncos. So, and then you have the Titans with 9 wins too. So you have a lot of teams fighting for just 3 spots. There's going to be some good teams that don't make the playoffs that probably would easily make the playoffs in the NFC. So we'll get into the NFC next week, obviously. But now I'd like to get into the toughest divisions and the weakest divisions in the AFC. So based on win percentage, the AFC East finished first with a 632 win percentage. Like I said, 3 teams over 10 wins, and those 3 teams also make the playoffs. And even the worst team wins 7 games in New England, going to be competitive too. So that's the best division in the AFC. That might be the best division in football. And watching that division is just going to be a lot of fun. Now, the second place division I have in the AFC is the AFC West with a 603 win percentage. Again, 3 teams also at least 10 wins. The Raiders will be competitive if Garoppolo plays the whole season. So that's another division where it's just going to be mostly competitive. But the 2 divisions on each coast, those are probably the strongest divisions in football. We'll get to, like I said, we'll get to the NFC next week, but both of those divisions can go for 1 and 2. So if the Broncos improve like I thought they would, and the Chargers take another step this season, obviously Kansas City going to be great. That division is going to be a hard out. Every single team, even the Raiders, if Garoppolo plays the whole season. Third, I have the AFC North with a 588 win percentage. The worst 2 teams are tied with 8 wins. So almost every team goes at least 500 or over 500. And even though I think the Browns will improve this season, I think the Steelers will still also be competitive. It's a tough sledding for all of these teams in this conference. So, the Steelers are gonna pull back a tiny bit. The Browns are gonna be limited compared to these other teams. So, so I have the AFC North in 3rd place, and the worst division by far in the conference is the AFC South with a 368 win percentage. Like I said, the worst division by far. The bottom 2 teams in the division, like I said was going to happen, are also the bottom 2 teams in the conference, the Texans and the Colts. Their best team in the division would come in 3rd place in the AFC East. It will also come in 3rd place in the AFC West. So that just says it all. The Titans 9-8, they would finish in. They would be behind the Broncos in the AFC West, and they would be behind the Jets in the AFC East. So recapping, the AFC East, 43 wins total. The AFC West, 41 wins total. The AFC North, 40 wins total. And the AFC South, 25 wins total. So the AFC South, the worst division in the conference by far. And I think the AFC East will be the best division in the conference. So that's my takeaway on that. Now, my biggest takeaways from doing this whole process and predicting the schedule, basically, and the playoffs, and, who are the good teams and who are the bad teams, is that schedules matter. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Schedules matter. Just because a team improves their roster does not mean they will improve the following season from the previous. Schedules matter. They could have an easy schedule one season and the next season have a really hard schedule. Now, the way the schedule works is you play 2 games against teams in different divisions in your conference and 1 game against a team in the opposite conference that all finish in the same place in their division standings as you. So if you come in last place in your division, you're going to play 2 teams in the same conference as you that also finished in last place in their division, and 1 team in the opposite conference that finished in last place in their division as well. So let's say you finish in last place in the AFC East. You will play probably a game against the AFC South last place team, the AFC West last place team, and like a team in the NFC that also finished in last place. If you win your division, you're going to play 2 division winners in your conference and 1 division winner in an opposite conference. So schedule does matter. Also, the way the schedules work, you play different divisions each season. So one season you might play a set of really hard divisions, and the next season play a set of really easy divisions. So schedules matter. Teams can improve their roster all they want. If the schedule is tough sledding and you don't have enough pieces, or you don't have a star quarterback, or you don't have a good enough offensive line, you're probably not going to make the playoffs. You're probably going to struggle. You could think your team's going to improve all you want. Doesn't mean they're going to improve. Their schedule could be way harder than last season. Another takeaway, if you don't have a great quarterback, you have no shot in the AFC. All the teams that I have make the playoffs in the AFC, other than Tua, I think will be future Hall of Famers. Now, Trevor Lawrence hasn't proved anything, but I think he's going to be special. And who knows with Tua one day if he stays healthy. Not even going to go there, but I'm just saying, all these quarterbacks in the AFC are special. And, this might be the most competitive conference that I've ever seen watching football. I mean, that's about 20, 25 years. But I've never seen a conference this stacked. You have multiple teams missing in the playoffs with 10 wins. You have 3 teams in 2 divisions in this conference winning 10-plus games. So, it's going to be a dogfight for these AFC teams during this season, especially the ones that are on the brink of the playoffs. This conference is loaded, and we're going to see some great games coming from this conference this season. Now, next week, I'll do the NFC. It's a little bit more all over the place, but I think the NFC also has some viable teams, just not nearly as many as the AFC. But all right, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next week.